r/AskReddit. Trolling law enforcement. What's your story? So I'll give my example here. I was reminded after reading the post about someone warning a kid buying from an undercover cop. Back when I was in school, the university newspaper ran a story about undercover cops using a younger, cute girl to camp outside the liquor store just off campus and ask people to buy her beer. She'd give the people money, then ask them if they wanted to come back to her vehicle and share one as a way to say thanks. Get back to where her car is supposed to be, van door opens up, cops inside, and you'd get a ticket for underage buying. Later that evening, my friend and I were going to this same liquor store to get some beer, when we were approached by a cute girl, who asked us if we could buy her a 6-pack of beer since she was underage. Being a dumbass, I said sure, took her money and we went inside. About 10 seconds later I remember the piece about the undercover cops, and realized we were about to get arrested. At that point, we decided the best thing to do was to buy a 6-pack of super expensive root beer, blowing $9 of the $20 she gave us, and we put it in a paper bag. We walked back out, and she asked us, "Did you get it?" To which we said yeah, of course. She invited us back to her car to have one each as a thank you. Sure enough, we head to the back and there's the black van. The door opens up, cops sitting in there with headphones on etc. and they tell us you're in a world of trouble now. I put on my best troll face and said, "Really? I really thought you guys could use some root beer sitting out here in that cramped van all night." There was an awkward pause, and then they opened the bag. Root beer, nothing else. Then they told us to get the duck out of there, and we were interfering with a police investigation, and if we didn't leave we'd get arrested. We walked across the street to our apt building, went into the various laundry rooms and yelled out the window every time she approached someone that it was a sting. They left after 20 minutes of that. College town, huge party. Excise cops are in town busting parties left and right. Ours gets busted. They proceed handing out tickets to underage drinkers. One kid gets a scrap piece of paper and folds it into the shape of the tickets the cops are handing out and sits on the front steps with his head in hands repeating, "My parents are gonna duck and kill me." Cops just pass him right by. This kid will go far. I grew up in a small town, really small. The only way to have any form of entertainment was to drive 30 minutes to the next city to go to the movies, bowling, etc. Just so happens that on the highway halfway between the two cities there was a small town known for being a speed trap. The highway was out of the jurisdiction of the local police, so what the marshal would do is hide in between overpasses to catch speeders, force them to pull over onto the frontage road, which was in his jurisdiction. Then he would claim an exaggerated speed. When people asked to see his radar, which is perfectly legal, he claimed that he didn't have to because it was illegal. Any claims reported to his superior seemed to go ignored, until he ran into me. Over time my friends and I had timed his patrols and realized that he patrolled towards the end of the month. One night he had stopped a friend for excessive speeding. The officer claimed 92 in a 60 zone, which was BS, and then we knew something had to be done. The officer had taken his plate number and claimed to have seen it speeding many different times, and we knew he would look out for it. So I decided to take my phone and rig it up to record the speedometer and get pulled over by the officer. It took a few tries, but I managed to get pulled over by the same officer for doing 70 in 60, that being a first-time offense. After giving him my license he went on to claim that I was doing at least 85, and giving me the whole bit about how he cannot show me the radar, as well as giving me a ticket claiming it was a repeat offense and how I should be put into jail. All this being caught on my phone without him noticing. So a few days later I show up to the courthouse to pay the ticket and I managed to talk to the mayor of the town and showed him the video of all this. Thanks to me the officer got fired and I didn't have to pay a $400 ticket from a voucher bag. I am from Arizona, where the police like to bust into people's homes for no reason, use unnecessary force when dealing with anyone, and basically just run around like they own the fucking place because it's a horrific police state. But I moved to Portland, and was at a house party once. The house party was huge, like 300-ish people, all smoking blunts and drinking more than necessary. The party got too big to be indoors, so it kind of spilled into the street. So there are a ton of loud wasted people running around acting like 4-year-olds. and the police show up. Everyone freezes. Dead silence, while the 4 cops walk around, looking bemused. One of the cops finds the guy who threw the party and we all watch in horror as the cop approaches this stoned as fuck and wasted man. He approaches him and says, "Hey, we were just driving by and wanted to stop by to see if you guys wanted some free stuff." Cue instant WTF. The cops took these huge boxes out of the trunks filled with little things like pencils, bike lights, plastic little badges, kid stuff. They hand it all out and we all got free stuff. And while they were there they discussed how to get home safely, be it by foot or car. It all went far better than expected, and after they left we all played with the pencils and little erasers for a good hour, having mini lightsaber battles. Added bonus, we all got some education on how to get home safely, and some other random facts about what police do and how they operate, information that I find useful every once in a while. I love the cops in Portland. I was president of a fraternity where a party was supposed to end at 1 AM, but people were refusing to leave. While we were happy that they were having such a great time, we really weren't in the mood to have the fraternity council sanction us for anything. Even saying the beer was gone and turning off the music wasn't making people leave. I waved a cop down who was rolling down the road, told him I was the president, and asked him to break up the party. He looked at me like I was batshit insane, and said, "You're asking me to break up your party?" He turned on his lights and did the short whoop BWOOP siren thing, and people decided it was time to head home. I gave him a soda and half a pizza and thanked him. Totally made his night. I've never actually done this but always wanted to. Get 5 total friends together all wearing costumes. Dress up as a biker, construction worker, Indian, cowboy, and a GI. Then go to public place where the police walk around, and just follow the cop around. I was in the back of a police car. Wasn't under arrest, but I was drunk on New Year's and the cop was offering to take me back to the party I had come from. I suspect because he wanted to know where it was, possibly break it up later on. I let him know my suspicions and he denied them. As we drove I asked him where the seat belts were in the back seat. He said don't worry about it. I said, but what if we get pulled over? He stopped the car and said get out. This was about 10 years ago. My mother had a large plant in a plastic pot that died. I took the pot full of dirt and put it in the trunk of my car to replant something at my house. I forgot about it for a few weeks. I got pulled over for something. The cop asked, "Do you know why I pulled you over?" And I said, "Was it speeding, or was it because of the pot in my trunk?" He got me out of the car and had me put my palms on the hood while I was searched. He opened the trunk and was not happy. I got chewed out for wasting his time and such and such. I noticed that not one single car passed, so it wasn't wasting too much of his time. I walked over to a police van, drunk, knocked on their window and once they opened it I, with a very serious and informative look said, "Excuse me sir, your window is open." Then I walked back to my friends. The police came after me and took me to the police station, but let's not get into that. One night I was blacked out by Wrigley Field and ended up with a cop shoving a piece of paper, basically a drinking ticket, stating that I wouldn't be arrested, in my face and telling me to sign it. I told him to duck off and spent the night in jail. About every hour, until 7 AM, a different cop came in to talk to me. I told each cop a different story. Everything from screaming "Do you know who the duck I am?" to one cop then breaking down and weeping like a little girl to the next duck in Ridgelyville. Not my story but a friend's. He was walking across campus with his backpack to a study group and a cop or campus security stopped him and started asking him all these questions about where he was going and what was in the bag etc. He decided to not let the cop see inside his bag and not tell him. The cop threatened him saying he was going to get a warrant, and finally he did. After about an hour of waiting the cop gets his warrant and looks inside the bag. Just books. I make it a priority to never take a campus for a walk when it is mad. Around 2 AM on a Saturday night I was pulled over for suspicion of DWI. I hadn't had a drop. They asked me to step out of the car and gave me a sobriety test. I passed with flying colors. They asked me if they could search the vehicle. I told them they could search the vehicle, with the sole exception of the center console. They would need a warrant for that. After several hours sitting roadside, they finally produced a warrant from a judge. The center console was empty. I frequently take photos in public. With a camera? Why do you hate America, son? I had a friend once who was asked by cop why he was taking pictures, and he said, "What else would you do with a camera?" The cop seemed taken aback, but after a moment he just chuckled and walked away. After being pulled over to the side of a two-lane highway for speeding, "Officer, why were you in such a rush?" Me, "Just Officer, there's no one in front of you." Me, cheeky grin, "Goes to show you how fast traffic is moving today." I got a ticket. I got pulled over once for going 88 miles per hour on the highway. I told the officer that I was trying to go back in time. No ticket. There was a speed trap where I grew up on PA Route 74. One of the markers, since it was a Vasca trap, was a white plastic jug. I often stopped along that route when I saw the jug there, grabbed the jug, and drove off. I got stopped once doing this. The cop seemed really angry. I told him I see that thing there all the time, and it bothers me that nobody has bothered to pick up that trash.